Okay. Well, welcome. Only 4 minutes off. My goal is to have these start on the hour, every hour. My name is Malcolm Saunders, and yeah, these open houses are a nice variety show of different presenters on a variety of topics. And yeah, it's going to be a good day. We had a very interesting session on medicinal mushrooms, topical application specifically. Yeah, as our first one. And if you miss anything or you got to leave, it means come and go as you feel, as you please. Everything's being recorded and we'll post it afterwards and you can kind of get the recording of it. So my name is Brittany Zeer. No, it's not. What? Where's Brittany? What have you done with Brittany? She's supposed to be teaching this. Yeah, she just was not feeling well enough and up for it. So yeah, I get to take her place. But she did send me her PowerPoint. We're going to go through that, and she left samples and everything that she had prepared previous. So let me just kind of get this all started and ready to go. And there we are. Share screen. Oh, okay. I got to reclaim host here. Can do that. Okay, wait a minute. Make sure. Is the sound still coming through? Make sure that is for sure. You just give me a little message in the comments. The sound is still coming through. All right, here we are. Okay, and then Donna, I might get your help for pouring some samples later on. So cool. All right, and maybe I'll turn the lights down just a touch so that pops a little bit more. And what's that, sorry? Turn them all off. All right. Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. And maybe I've actually got that too high. Some of you may not be able to see that through the screen there. And let me just make sure, for those online, you can let me know how we're doing in terms of sound. I don't want to, got to make sure we got the sound right here. All right. Anybody online, just give me a thumbs up if the sound is coming through. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they can't hear me saying, yeah, is the sound coming through? Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I had. Let's see here. Is the sound coming through? Oh, Wendy, give me a thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to screen share. Perfect. Okay, we're ready. We're doing it. Let me start again. My name is Malcolm Saunders. I am not Brittany Zeer, as you can see from the photo. A beautiful woman that works here at Light Cellar. Many of you probably are here to see her specifically. So I have to disappoint you and offer myself. She just wasn't feeling up to her 100% to be able to do so today. But we do have all our notes, and I've made plenty of broth. I've taught similar classes before. So this is the open house. We're gonna do about 40 minutes here, then we'll take a 15-minute break, and there'll be more classes carrying on throughout the day. All the sessions will be recorded, and I'm excited to be here this afternoon with you. So we are, of course, moving into autumn, and I even called this the autumn equinox open house. It's not really the equinox yet, is it? No, it sure feels like autumn. It's always that like middle of August, right? It's like the mornings get a little bit cooler, the evenings start to cool off. It's still summer technically, right? That's it, right? So equinox is that kind of equal distance, right, of the light and the night, and it's just like in the winter solstice, like winter starts for us Halloween usually, right? We get the snow, we get the frost. But we are for sure moving into soups and broth season. So this class is all about how to optimize crafting your own soups and broths. And we'll go through Brittany's notes, but maybe just really quickly, how I usually always do this and teach it. There's 5 ingredients I feel you should include in every broth. So depending whether or not you're doing bones or not, let me just do this here. Okay, so whether you're And this is it. We'll talk about this, benefits of bone broth, difference versus meat stock. And if you're more on the vegetarian path, how you can do it kind of vegetarian based. But for a bone broth or a meat stock, and we'll get into that. Here's my quick and dirty. This is my template. I don't teach recipes, I teach templates. Brittany's amazing. She's got recipes for you, but for me, it's more of a template, right? So you're going to need bones or meat. And again, talk about the difference between that. And then we'll also talk about what could be an alternative to that. Next, you're going to need some sort of, vegetables, right? And both of these, you can have your little freezer bag, right? Of like, oh, you just had ribs, or you just had this, or you cooked a chicken carcass, like you kind of stuff that away into the freezer. Same with your onion peels, your garlic pieces, your, celery ends, and your carrot tops, that kind of thing. You can put all those in a bag that when you're ready to brew them up, you can go ahead and do that. So I think nothing earth shattering here yet, hey, in terms of what's going on. Third one I like to add in are herbs. And maybe we could actually make this more than 5, but we're going to say herbs generally. But usually when we talk about herbs, I can split those into 2 categories. I can talk about, your more culinary herbs. And this is maybe where the breakdown doesn't really work, where I'd say medicinal herbs, because you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute, all those culinary herbs are medicinal, aren't they? Absolutely, right? Like just because rosemary's in the cupboard and you use it in, cooking and baking doesn't mean it's any less medicinal than some of the quote unquote medicinal herbs like astragalus, right? Obviously there's differences between those herbs, but, for our purposes, just to kind of draw it out, emphasize it, we're all used to, parsley and rosemary and thyme, amazing, wonderful, actually very potent medicinal herbs, but the medicinal herbs that maybe you wouldn't necessarily think of eating per se. Our last presentation was all about reishi, the Ganoderma species, which we've got all these beautiful specimens up here, like the Chinese. I mean, they're famous for adding medicinal mushrooms to their broths, adding things like goji berries, adding things like astragalus. And what herbs do you want to put in? Well, I think about anything I do, kind of the template for these recipes. And this to me is like kind of the secret of alchemy is flavor. Right? Number one, it's like how much and what type? Well, what kind of flavor do you want, right? Do you really want it rosemary forward, or do you really want that bitterness of the reishi in there? You choose. Function. What is kind of the goal? In the last session, we were talking about all kinds of things, from detoxing heavy metals to dissolving cysts to alleviating depression, right? What's kind of the function of the herbs? Is it to support your cardiovascular system? Is it to support your adrenals? Is it to really like boost the immune system? That is a big factor that you'll be thinking about as you build your broths. And then kind of related, I always think about like feeling, right, in terms of like energizing, calming, grounding. Every herb has kind of an energetic. So you're going to think about the flavor, the function, the feeling. I'll use this template sometimes literally when I'm like crafting recipes, but it's more just intuitive. It's always in there, right? As you're building a broth. So those 3 will determine, again, which herbs are you going to be putting in there? I will put in mushrooms. And again, we could break it down into culinary. And of course, all the great culinary mushrooms have a medicinal component to them. And the mushrooms are popping right now on the table. I've got just a few examples of things that I've been harvesting yesterday morning or Wednesday. I've been out as often as I can into the forest because, it's mushroom season. Mushrooms are popping. So we can take advantage of that by harvesting. We can dry, we can cook, we can fry, we can put them into our soups and our broths. And, there's so many studies. There's one I just posted recently. It's not a new one by any means, that basically the more mushrooms you consume, there's a correlation to the lower incidence of cancer. And we could go through any number of different conditions as well. The connection between mushrooms, both culinary as well as our medicinal mushrooms. They are just amazing. And they're each going to offer their own kind of energetic and flavor. Next, I will also put in, Okay, vegetables. Maybe I should break this into two different categories. So there's our table veg, garden veg, that type of thing. And sea vegetables. So this is your nori, your wakame, your dulse, it's going to add flavor, right? Oftentimes, these sea vegetables bring that flavor of umami. I mean, this is going to be a whole big giant one pot of umami, that rich kind of savoriness flavor, plus minerals, right? It's bathing in a liquid that contains all minerals known and unknown. That's the ocean, right? And certain sea vegetables like kelp has an ability to kind of bring within its structure all of those. They say it will contain the highest amount of minerals compared to other types of sea veggies, like land. Sure, there we are. Land. There we are. Yeah, land veggies, sea veggies. I like it. Cool. And then our fifth, which would, and none of these are a must, right? If you're like, man, I just don't like sea vegetables. Hey, well, you and I have something in common. I don't like the taste of sea veggies. It's just one of those things. Like if I go eat sushi, it's not going to be a nori roll because I just don't like the flavor. Like I appreciate what they are. I appreciate, all the benefits and, but this is where I can get sea veggies in, right? Because it's about quantity, where I'm not going to overpower the flavor. It just blends in really well. Then I don't need to think about it. Like if I'm in a kick of like soup every day, like who's got kids going to school or grandkids, right? Very oftentimes, when you create your broths, it's your soups or you cook grains in it or you do, stews or whatever. And it's an easy thing. Like for me and the kids, like, all right, here we are. Here's lunch for the day. I'm getting in sea veggies every day when normally I wouldn't be reaching for them, right? But if it's in the broth, same with your herbs, same with your medicinal mushrooms. It makes compliance and building these things into your everyday so easy. So, when we're talking broths and stocks, it is the ultimate delivery system in compliance. Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. So good question. And I'll repeat all the questions for those online and everyone here in the room. So when you're heating these, and it's true of some of the vegetables too, you're going to lose some compounds in the heat process, depending on the mushroom. But generally, most medicinal mushrooms and most of the compounds are heat stable. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know when Kevin talked about Ganoderma, there's certain compounds that may be lost. But generally, what most of us are looking for, and you think about, throughout history, right? It's typically been in a hot tea or a broth. These mushrooms have been consumed, and so there's still enough goodness in there that, for everybody on the everyday. Yeah, like we'll lose a little bit of vitamin C from the parsley, but there's lots of other good compounds coming through.
For a lot of those medicinal mushrooms, it needs to have that heat decoction to pull out the.
Yeah. Okay. So Donna's made a really good point. Is totally right. That's right. So heat is actually oftentimes required, and there are many other fancy versions of ways to extract, but really heat. Like this is tough as wood. There's no way that just like, I'll just eat it raw. Like you're getting nothing from this eating it raw. Maybe a tummy ache, I don't know, or a broken tooth or a really uncomfortable bowel movement, like passing through. So yeah, heat has always been traditionally used as that medium to kind of release those nutrients. So that's the thing. If you're adding in medicinal mushrooms, just like you're going to add in the bones, you brew it up nice, long or short. We'll talk about that kind of brewing. You're going to strain it out. Everything in here is going to be just transferred to liquid, and then you're going to get rid of the fibrous stuff or the stuff you can't digest. So it would be strained out afterwards. All right. And then the other one, the fifth one, optional. They're all optional. Apple cider vinegar. Yeah. Have you ever heard about that idea of putting a little bit of apple cider vinegar in, let it sit? It helps pull those minerals out of the bones, that acidity, and then create a more nutrient-rich, mineral-rich bone broth. Okay. Yeah, question.
How much apple cider?
Oh, really good question. I don't have a specific on that. Yeah. So maybe if it's a big, I don't know, like a 2 or 3 gallon pot, might be like a half a cup. you know, but that's quite a bit. You know, maybe you're only just, you know, you're just a single person and it's maybe like 2 or 3 tablespoons, type of thing. Yeah. Great. All right. And if anybody online has any questions, feel free to pop them in anytime. All right. So back to Brittany. And we'll kind of walk through everything she's wonderfully prepared. So crafting a superfood bone broth. I gave you the quick and dirty of how I do it, what I think about. She's done it in a lot more elegant way. So an amazing person. She, you got to listen to her story. She was in chronic pain for 7.5 years and then just had a breakthrough that has now inspired her to help others. She really does focus, as the name of her business suggests, Blissful Wombcare, really supporting women postpartum and even, what do we call it? Prepartum? Is that even a word? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Pre and postpartum. Blissful Wombcare is the name of her website. All right. What is a bone broth? To her, it's a simmering stock pot of deliciousness, usually made from cooked or roasted bones. That's a really good point we can say there, right? Like I suggested, okay, you got your bones. These are scrap. But of course, you can use fresh bones. And then if you do want to pre-roast them, it's just going to like deepen the flavor a little bit more. And you want ones with like lots of connective tissue, right? The knuckles, even whole carcasses, vegetables, yeah, aromatics, and then can be simmered anywhere from 8 hours to 48 hours. Yeah, and I'd say you can even do less as well, but the time really helps pull and extract a lot of those nutrients. Some people have found that long simmer bone broths can cause issues, like if you have issues like histamine, for instance, that can maybe just push things even over the edge. If that's you, then look to more kind of shorter time durations. All right, questions, go for it.
I make my bone broth.
Yeah. Okay, really good question. Yeah, so if you got an Instapot or like pressure cooker, it's basically going to expedite that. Yeah, so you don't have to cook it as long because you got the extra pressure to really help just like cook and draw.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Has anybody done one recently in an Instapot? Yeah, or a pressure cooker?
it's weird. It's supposed
Yeah.
it was very watery.
Very watery, hey?
Yeah, compared to this. Yeah, in my slow cooker.
Right, okay. Right.
Then the intensity.
Right. Right, okay. Yeah. Okay, so 36 hours in simmer. Yeah,
We're gonna slow cooker.
in a slow cooker. Right.
And I keep adding.
Right, okay. Yeah, it does go down. So if it's kind of contained and sealed up, then, I think you can get away with a much shorter time. But yeah, the longer one, slow cooker. Yeah.
Yeah, so the longer you simmer to it, whether it's slow cooker or on the stove top, if it is evaporating some of that water, it's concentrating the flavor.
Yes. That's right.
So
Yeah.
that also helps develop flavor. So I'm thinking of using it as a pot, because that's pressure cooking, it's reducing the time to cook. It won't give the same amount of time that's needed to caramelize and
Right.
flavors.
Yeah. So Donna used to teach home ec actually back in the day.
You want to roast the vegetables and bones first.
Right.
If you're gonna put slow
Instapot.
pressure cooker in the spot.
Yeah.
It's like I've heard from the lady who specializes in this.
Yeah.
That their collagen comes out after 18 hours.
Oh, okay. Interesting. The collagen coming out after 18 hours. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Get the gelatin.
Yeah. All right. So what is a meat stock? And this would be indicated if you find you have issues digesting the bone broth, right? That could be, histamine reaction. And it's actually very much indicated for leaky gut. So either you have leaky gut, or somebody that has leaky gut, or it's just a suspicion, things like allergies, autoimmune that can result from leaky gut. Then you would actually specifically want to focus on just a meat stock. And that's because it's higher in glutamine, which is like gut healing, gut repairing, and I'll have less of the other compounds that might be, were kind of irritating. So meat stock made by simmering raw meat on the bone. So that could be a whole chicken, that could be a beef shank, with your vegetable scraps, everything else, and it's a shorter amount of time. So with lower heat, shorter amount of time with actually more meat in the broth. So it's more gelatinous. Yeah, there we are. Meat stock may be more appropriate for those with histamine issues or have a hard time tolerating broth. Benefits of both. TCM standpoint, yeah, it's slow cooked, right? It's kinder to the digestive system, full of electrolytes, minerals, collagen and gelatin as a digestive aid, especially for the bowel, right? And when we got up here, the glutamine, natural remedy for leaky gut, helps heal and seal the gut. In fact, reduces inflammation, supports immune function, and then that glycine as well is an important amino acid. Cool. All right. And if you don't want to do the meat or the bones, I get it. I was a vegetarian for a long time. But I know somebody who's a vegan, and I was a vegan for a good chunk of time. She went hardcore and just kept going and going and going, but it's actually really destroyed her body going that long, that extreme. And one of the ways that she's rebuilding is through bone broths and meat stocks. So if for whatever reason, whatever choice, you want to leave out the animal products, vegetable broths can be made. So if we're going to use this template, right, you just take off the top one and then still build in land vegetables, sea vegetables, colorated medicinal herbs, colorated medicinal mushrooms. Probably don't need the apple cider vinegar at that point. And when it comes to meat stocks, the closest similarity that there is without meat is, it was actually learned this from a Japanese woman. She says, oh, in our culture, we have dashi broth, which is made specifically with, shiitake mushrooms and kombu kelp. And both of those are high in particular amino acids and the glutamine that is very like gut healing, gut repairing. Shiitake mushrooms. Yeah. You ever heard my joke about why you never interrupt a Japanese woman while she's speaking? Because shiitake. What will you say if you interrupt her while she's speaking? My take.
That is my trainer.
Yeah, I'm notorious for bad dad jokes. So, all right.
Bonus to the open house.
Okay, she just highlighted some benefits of culinary herbs. We talked about that. And, we've got Blaine Andrewsick in town, in store rather. He's a master at this, like working with essential oils, working with plants. He was probably one of my earliest teachers that was like, like Malcolm, like, why did they start using these herbs, right? It wasn't, and he's saying, he's like, it wasn't that they just loved the flavor, right? There was a practical, tangible benefit that they're after that we then went, you know what, these aren't too bad, flavor wise. Like it started medicinally first. So rosemary, right? Antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, promotes circulation, brain health, cognitive function. Yeah, that's one of those ones. Yeah. Have a nice little sniff. It's like a mental stimulant. They say that it's a good thing to use before a test. During a test, it can help just stimulate the brain, engage the mind and memory. Thyme, wow, what an incredible herb, right? Yeah. Antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, supports immunity, respiratory health. Very similar. Oregano, sage, the salvia species. We got bay leaves, garlic. And of course, the list goes on and on and on. The one thing I always marvel at is that the ability of black pepper to rise to the occasion of pairing at the table, right? We could have chose anything, any of the spices, but black pepper won out, earns its place right beside table salt. Incredible herb as well. So I throw some black pepper in there. And I know a lot of people know about how it helps potentiate turmeric, as an example. Yeah, there's a lot of synergy. It's why in Ayurveda, Indian culture, right? It's like this complex synergy of all the herbs and spices that go together. Okay, other herbs. food benefits. So this kind of gets into those medicinal herbs and the medicinal mushrooms. So reishi, Kevin did a good job talking about the Ganoderma species. Reishi is kind of the most famous. We've got all kinds of samples of it here, as well as really what does it look like tactically, tangibly is from that in the forest into sliced up and ready to use in the kitchen. If you are working with wild harvesting these mushrooms, cut them before they dry. Otherwise you need a bandsaw to be able to put it into actual useful portions, or it can be ground up as well. But reishi, amazing. I mean, there's just so much to it and its benefits. I really love this book, Robert Rogers, The Fungal Pharmacy, and there's a nice little appendix in the back where he'll break down it by species. So if we go to Ganoderma, he's got both Ganoderma alpinatum, which is what we talked about in the last hour, Ganoderma lucidum, which is kind of the famed eastern reishi, and then also two other Ganoderma species. But for alpinatum, it's antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, antiviral, good for the blood sugar balance, cardiovascular health, cholesterol health, hypertension, immune tonic, kidney tonic, liver tonic, nerve tonic, respiratory tonic. And I think this is wrong. He's got it listed as a sexual tonic. I think it's better for stress than it is a sexual tonic, but anyways, does a lot of things. And it's just a matter of throwing it into your broth. Astragalus boosts and builds immunity, right? Very supportive to the lungs. And we're going to be hearing from Dr. Linda Regan, who's a TCM practitioner, and that's her specialty, is all about Chinese herbs and how they kind of build, nourish, and support us. So we'll look to hear from her. And then we got the shiitake in there. Again, considered one of the great culinary mushrooms that we can enjoy, we can eat. They're delicious, but it comes with this host of medicinal benefits. There we are. Other different herbs, nettles. I think that's always a good one to add into the broths. That deep mineral support, as well as antihistamine, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, vitamins, minerals. We got our kombu, kelp, and our sea veggies. And then, of course, salt. I guess maybe that's what I should put on my little list there as well. Of course, you're going to put in a bit of salt. Yeah, so full spectrum of minerals, plus all about flavor. Okay, crafting your own broth. Water. I mean, that's the foundation. I was I still am a water snob in that sense. I like high quality water, right? It's just like anything. You taste the difference. And spring water. Literally, for a number of years, I did not drink any water unless it was me going to the source, filling up spring water directly from the earth, and carton bottles of it home, and using that. I've come across some really nice filters, and ultimately, in Calgary, we do have really good water. It's like, for now, I know. Have you heard? You probably heard they're scheduled for 2025. Was it February? As early as February? Fluoride. Yeah, when it is known neurotoxin. Yeah, they just came out. It's been known, but it was actually got mainstream. Not really. It was Associated Press, I believe, that put it out. That it actually lowers your IQ. Fluoride. What they want to put in our water. Yeah, calcifies the pineal gland. We can go on and on and on. I've done some interviews with Dr. Bob, who's been one of the main kind of anti-fluoride advocates. He's like, Malcolm, I think we got an angle. Because to transport this stuff, it's toxic waste. It's highly corrosive, right? And they're dumping it into our water system. Guess what? Okay, it's corrosive. Is that maybe what's been going on with the pipes?
Yeah.
Or if they're spending all this time repairing it, we're putting this corrosive substance back in the pipe, what's going to do the future of the pipes? Maybe people will care. Maybe people will care. And I'm not here to debate, if fluoride's great for your teeth, is it the right form? And what about dose, right? How are we regulating fluoride coming out of the tap? And I'm preaching to the choir. And I would tell you, and I don't know the exact number, but I'm sure we can all make a really good estimated guess, is, so can you guess how much fluoride that we put into the water supply that actually makes it in people's mouths as drinking water? When you think about watering lawns, car washes, dishwashers, washing machines, it's got to be 98% of it is just literally going in and down the drain. So Why are we doing that? Anyways,
And a 2-year-old child, body mass is gonna be.
2-year-old
very
child,
different
yeah, their body
than
mass.
a 80-pound man.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. There's a million things we could do with that money, you know, in a much more intelligent way. What's that? Thank you, dentist, the dental board, and yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, it's just one of those things of like, what do we do with this waste byproduct? Yeah. Okay. Sources for spring water. There's a website called findthespring.com. So you could literally be traveling to Ontario. And you're like, oh, I'm visiting the relatives. Where's the spring water around here? Oh, okay. So Nanton. Yeah. Spring water. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, there are certain filters that will take it out. Some not 100%, some for a short period of time. And it's like you got to keep replacing the filters to make them work effectively. So, anyways, I hope we don't have to cross that bridge when it comes, but it seems like it's coming. But maybe with this pipe thing, we can get a bit of like, you know, like it's a real pain thing right now. So, yeah. Anyways, best quality water that you can. If that's spring water, if it's filtered water, yeah, that's what we want to start with. Something really nice. Yeah. Add in your ingredients, turn it on, and great best thing about it in terms of preservation, right? You can freeze it. Here's the other thing, maybe your freezer's small, but very practical, right? So reducing down the level of water, right? So you can really concentrate it so that you're freezing just that much, but that you know that when you add it to water, or a pot, you're going to add that much water to bring it back to what you might have already done. The other thing I did was actually made my own bouillon cubes, right? So you really reduce it down like a lot, and then you can add gelatin to it, and then put it in like ice cube trays, and then just freeze them that way. So it's literally just like pop. Yeah, so lots of different ways other than having, you know, jars and jars filling up your freezer. Okay, well, let's taste some broth that she made for us. Brittany does have a couple other classes coming up, aligning with cyclical wisdom, right? How to work with the changing seasons, the energetics of the menstrual cycle. Obviously, that's not my area of expertise, but I've seen so many women, right? Like, just like boom, like tap into this idea of like, oh my gosh, right? Instead of it being like, oh, you know, my cycle, or it's a nuisance or whatever, like to really embody the power of it and understand, you know, the seasons and the cycle. Essentials of nourishing and supporting mothers for postpartum care. And then she's doing another one with Dr. Stephanie Yaremko. Yeah, so those are all in the upcoming class calendar. So thank you, Brittany. She did great there. And we're going to hop back over to just kind of a regular Zoom here. And let's taste some samples of what she had for us to do. So we do have a vegetable broth as well as a bone broth. They've kind of been simmering away here, so they're going to be nice and hot. There's not a ton. Maybe we'll start with the veggie one, and Donna's just going to give me a hand pouring and distributing these. And we'll just open up if there's any other kind of comments or questions that we want to talk about. Well, we've just got a couple minutes left in the class. So yeah, back there. Romania root. Yeah, great question. So Romania root, you could absolutely put that in a broth. We can ask Dr. Linda about it a little bit more, but kind of the tagline around Romania is they describe it as the kidney's own food. So it's very kind of nourishing, building to the kidneys. And Romania has usually been prepared. So it's a root that's, you know, made more digestible, made more kind of medicinal. Typically it's like in a bean broth. So it's going to have this like dark, earthy flavor. So I think it would come through, it would work absolutely well in a broth. And I think you'd want to just kind of watch in terms of flavor wise. Yeah, miso broth, that type of thing. Yeah, so that's a great question, great point that, you know, that broth for sure you could absolutely put in, or say that root, the Romania root.
Talking about flavors.
Yeah.
Any pointers or what to eat, what to drink, imagine this. The tendency might be to throw everything there.
Oh.
right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's so, I mean, that's the art of being the chef, right? In terms of, and then the alchemist too, right? It's balancing these three, the flavor, the function, the feeling. You want to add enough in, like whether it's Romania or reishi, that you're going to get these two, but it's not going to overpower the flavor. So yeah, flavor balancing, thinking about that. Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question very well, but what?
Because like the magic phase, you know, to say once you have a meat, maybe this flavor wise will make it better. Like what would be if they start?
Oh, a base start? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, depending on if you like kind of white meat or dark meat, but you have your chicken or your beef, let's say. Just keeping it simple, like carrots, onion, celery. Uh, and then more neutral, I'd say in herbs. So maybe I'd go more like parsley versus rosemary, right? Because rosemary is such a distinct flavor. I would add in, sea vegetables. They're going to come more through again as more of like kind of a salt like flavor, especially the kelp. Nori is more kind of distinct. Dulse can be a good one too. And then medicinal herbs, I wouldn't go too strong on like the mushrooms, the medicinal mushrooms, like the reishi can add a real bitterness if it's too strong. But something like astragalus, really good for cold and flu season, immune support, lung support. But it's got almost a slight sweetness to it too. So I know with chicken, there was a gal that worked here for a long time, Madeline McKinnon. She would do a chicken broth with astragalus, goji, and jujube dates. And like those three flavors, like paired really, really well with like chicken and onion, carrot, that kind of a thing. Yeah.
How much research slices that came in like that?
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So, and maybe just give the visual here. So, this size of pot was that's probably like 2 quarts, 2 liters, that type of thing. I would take, maybe of these pieces, they're about like kind of 2 to 3 inches long, 5 or 6 of those. Yeah. Doesn't need to be a huge amount. Like you say, if you add too much, it's going to be like very strong and bitter. Like the kids are going to be like, no, not going to have it. But you don't want to. I would say one is too little, right? Like add in a little bit more. So yeah, just a kind of like a pinch of those, 5, 6, that type of thing. Yeah, great question.
Basically, you go with a dark meat, or with vegetable mushrooms, or darker mushrooms, and you go with chicken, you go with scrambles.
Yeah, okay, great question. So yeah, generally, yeah, a darker meat, it'll kind of just, I think, incorporate some of those darker, deeper, more bitter herbs like the Romania or the reishi, chaga even. Yeah, and then the chicken with those lighter flavors. But no hard rules that way. Oh, distilled water, I think is great for preparations. It's often described as an aggressive water. So reverse osmosis and distilled, I would say for just pure drinking water, they're too empty, right? Like water in that state is never empty. Like it's going to start pulling minerals into itself to rebalance itself. So if you're drinking, it's actually going to pull minerals from your body, RO or distilled. So it's better to add those minerals back in. And that could just be a little pinch of salt. That could be mineral drops, anything like that, just to kind of, rebalance it a little bit. But in this case of using it for broths and stocks, it's going to have all that with it. So in some sense, a lot of people who are making medicine, like tinctures as an example, will use distilled water because it is kind of more aggressive to like pull and extract things. That makes sense? Yeah, that's a great question.
And what when you put the apple cider on the soup?
Yeah, really good question. So when do you put the apple cider vinegar into the soup, the broth? Literally as you're building it. So you dump in your bones, you're putting things into the pot. You would put even before you turned it on, you put it in right ahead of time. Some people say that they like to kind of let it sit for, 20, 30 minutes just at room temperature with the apple cider vinegar in there. I don't know how necessary that is. Again, depending on how large your pot, you'll probably take 20 minutes for that to kind of come to heat anyways. But it's right in at the beginning. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, looks like Donna's got this ready to go here. So the first one that we're serving up is the vegetable broth. Yeah, so any vegetarians, this one is all good. Delicious. Yeah, exactly as you would expect. Very nourishing. Yeah.
Just keep your cups open around the jug.
Yeah, nicely balanced in flavor, salt, and yeah. So this is the kind of thing, maybe I won't get into it. Well, it'll take too long, but this is the kind of thing I'll actually use as a base for an elixir. So like a savory elixir, where I'll add in miso and hot sauce and all kinds of stuff to it.
Question back here about
Okay.
for allergies.
Okay, question regarding allergies. Yeah. Okay, there's no miso in here. Nope. Let's just see here. Did she send me the rest of the ingredients? Yeah, okay, so broth class, recipes, beef. Okay, here, actually, I've got the recipes. I'll just post this right up so everyone can see, and then I can send this out as well. Okay, so here is the recipe. Feel free to take a picture or write it down, and I will send this out with the recording. So we've got this vegetable one. So 6 to 8 liters of water, 1 onion, 2 leeks, grass-fed butter. So it's vegetarian, not vegan. Fat or oil. I bet you she would have done olive oil just to make it more vegan. But you can absolutely add butter, shiitake mushrooms, cremini mushrooms, reishi, Roma tomatoes, carrots, sea veggie blend. There's a bit of turmeric in there, astragalus, nettles, bay leaves, green cabbage, parsley, lemon, and then that was all strained. So she goes through her process here. Saute, many of you are familiar with that, with the oil, your onions and your leeks, and then until they brown, add the remaining ingredients, boil, and simmer for 3 hours. And then in regards to miso, this is the kind of thing now as a base. Once it's all strained, warmed up, pour it into a bowl, and then you could add your miso to it. And then you're bringing a nice, good selection of probiotics and more umami flavor from the sea vegetables. Okay, here's the beef one. So she got 2 pounds of knuckle bones, some beef shank, onions, carrots, celery, garlic, sun-dried tomatoes, thyme, rosemary, oregano, parsley, nettle, bay leaves, astragalus, reishi, some apple cider vinegar. Okay, there's her ratio, 2 tablespoons for 8 liters, 6 to 8 liters, some salt, some black pepper. So she seasoned the knuckle bones and shank, then roasted till caramelized, so on and so forth. So, all right, I'll send these out along with the recording, but that gives us a nice little view of that one there.
How much strength?
Oh, okay. How much was it? 2 pounds of beef shank roasted with the knuckle bones. Yeah. Okay. Well, right on. Okay. Yeah. So this would be the stinging nettle is in the recipe. But if you love dead nettles, yeah, throw them in, right? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now the beef is getting passed around, and we're going to take a break. So the next class at top of the hour, 2 p.m., perimenopause from a TCM perspective, what herb supplements and acupuncture can do to reduce aggravating symptoms. There's no aggravating symptoms in perimenopause, is there? No, right? It's like the smoothest ride ever. You know? All right. Okay, so at the top of the hour, 2 o'clock, we'll just kind of have a nice little stretch break. And yeah, hopefully I did okay filling in for Brittany. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for coming. And thank you, Donna. Yeah, for sure. Okay, we'll crank the lights back on. And